1,000 Viking longships cut through the waves, their sails filled with the wind, warriors ready for battle. Their target? The legendary city of Constantinople, the heart of the Byzantine Empire. Victory seems certain. After all, the Kievan Rus have conquered cities before. Armed with fearsome warriors and lightning-fast ships, they expect a swift and glorious raid. But within moments, the sea itself erupts into flames. Fire rains down from Byzantine ships, clinging to the water, spreading like a living creature. The Viking longships, built for speed but made of dry, flammable wood, ignite instantly. Panic takes over as warriors try to escape. Some jump into the water, only to realize the fire burns even on the sea's surface. The question is, what kind of weapon can turn the tide of battle so quickly? And how did this devastating defeat change history forever? The Kievan Rus were no ordinary invaders. They were descendants of the Vikings, fierce warriors who had sailed from Scandinavia, conquering lands and forging a vast trade empire along the rivers of Eastern Europe. In 941 AD, under the rule of Prince Igor of Kiev, they had become a powerful force, feared by both their neighbors and the mighty Byzantine Empire itself. At the heart of their power was the Viking longship, a marvel of naval engineering, fast, agile, and capable of navigating both open seas and narrow rivers. These ships allowed the Rus to strike swiftly, raiding cities and disappearing before an enemy could react. Their hit-and-run tactics had worked for decades, allowing them to plunder rich cities and build a thriving trade network. So when Igor set his sights on Constantinople, the Kievan Rus were confident. They had numbers, experience, and the element of surprise. What could possibly go wrong? If the Kievan Rus were powerful, the Byzantine Empire was legendary. At its heart stood Constantinople, a city unlike any other in the medieval world, protected by massive stone walls, a formidable navy, and a wealth beyond imagination. It was the most coveted prize in Europe and Asia. For centuries, the Byzantines had repelled invaders, from the Persians to the Arabs, thanks to their advanced military tactics and superior technology. Their empire controlled vast trade routes, bringing in silk, spices, and gold from distant lands. But Constantinople's greatest defense wasn't its walls or its wealth. It was its navy. The Byzantine fleet ruled the seas with war galleys, specialized for battle. And hidden aboard those ships was a weapon unlike anything the world had ever seen. A weapon that could turn fire into a force of destruction. The Rus were about to learn this the hard way. The Kievan Rus' fleet arrived in the waters near Constantinople, expecting an easy victory. After all, the Byzantines seemed unprepared and outnumbered. Confident in their strength, the Rus' longships rushed forward, eager to plunder the legendary city. Then, without warning, the sea turned into an inferno. Byzantine warships, smaller and fewer in number, suddenly unleashed their secret weapon, Greek fire. From long bronze tubes mounted on their decks, the Byzantines spewed streams of liquid fire, igniting everything in its path. Panic erupted. The flames clung to wood, sails, and even the water itself, spreading uncontrollably. Desperate Rus' warriors jumped overboard, only to realize the fire floated and burned, even on water. Their once mighty fleet became a chaotic, burning graveyard. Within moments, what had seemed like an easy conquest had turned into one of the most horrifying naval disasters in Viking history. What exactly was Greek fire? How could a weapon from the 10th century cause such devastating destruction? Unlike normal fire, Greek fire couldn't be extinguished with water. In fact, it burned even more fiercely upon contact with it. Some accounts describe it as a liquid fire, capable of sticking to ships, armor, and even human skin. The Byzantines deployed it through siphon-like flamethrowers mounted on their warships, allowing them to unleash continuous streams of blazing destruction. The exact formula remains a mystery to this day. Historians speculate it may have contained petroleum, sulfur, and quicklime, creating a deadly chemical reaction. But whatever its ingredients, Greek fire was a game-changer. It not only saved Constantinople from the Rus in 941 AD, but it also cemented Byzantine naval superiority for centuries. For the Kievan Rus, this battle was a brutal lesson, one they wouldn't forget. The battle was over almost as quickly as it began. The once mighty Rus fleet lay in ruins, its charred remains drifting in the waters of the Black Sea. Survivors fled in terror, rowing desperately away from the inferno. Prince Igor of Kiev had underestimated the Byzantine defenses, and he paid the price. The Kievan Rus had expected gold and glory, but instead, they suffered one of the most humiliating defeats in their history. Thousands of warriors perished, and the few who escaped returned home in disgrace. The Byzantines had proven that, despite their declining power, they still had weapons capable of annihilating entire fleets. This disastrous campaign forced Igor to rethink his strategy. He would not attack Constantinople again in the same reckless manner. But would he give up? Or would the Rus return with a new plan? The answer would come just a few years later. Prince Igor of Kiev was not the type to accept defeat easily. After the disaster of 941 AD, he rebuilt his fleet and returned to attack the Byzantines in 944 AD. But this time something was different. Rather than rushing into battle, Igor chose a diplomatic approach. The Byzantines, wary of another conflict, agreed to negotiate peace. The result? A new trade treaty between the Kievan Rus and the Byzantine Empire, granting them valuable commercial rights in Constantinople. It was a stunning reversal of fate. What began as a fiery disaster in 941 ultimately led to stronger ties between the two powers. The Rus had learned that brute force alone would not conquer Byzantium, but alliances and trade could make them even richer than war ever could. From this moment on, the relationship between the two civilizations would never be the same again.